Hi guys, this is Elisa with Fusion DIY. Welcome back to my channel. If you've never been here before, I am the owner and creator behind Fusion DIY, where I take items that I find as a roadside rescue or I find in flea markets, yard sales, and thrift stores, and I upgrade them, I paint them, I do whatever type of repair needs to be done, and then I take that item and I sell it in my booth located at the Pickers Junction, 141 East Broad Street in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. So in today's video, I have two projects that I worked on over the week, and then I also have the final video, finally, on the pink desk that I had been working on. So I'm not going to give you too much more information. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you at the end. Project 1 is a set of nesting tables that I picked up here locally. Someone was giving them away, so I grabbed them and I thought that I could repair them and do something good with them. So there's two of them. This is the first one. This is actually the smaller of the two. You can see it's got a salmon colored paint on it. You can see that one of the legs is off, but the detail in the table is really pretty nice, and I didn't want to lose that. So I went ahead and I repaired the piece using some Titebond glue to glue it. Oh, you can see, yes, there was a chunk taken out of the side of the table as well, and I filled that in with some joint compound once the leg was glued in and it was dry. So this is the bigger one of the two, and this one was in very good condition. It didn't have any broken legs or even loose legs. It was a very sturdy piece. It did have some peeling paint, so I took my sandpaper and I just sanded off any of the loose paint, and then here I'm giving it a good clean using some awesome cleaner and getting it ready for painting. Now I am using Fusion mineral paint in the color Algonquin, and I used this on a project a few videos ago, and I absolutely love this paint. It's a great neutral, and it has a built-in sealer to it, so you don't have to go back and give it a coat of polyurethane because the sealer's already in there, and it just makes your project that much faster to be completed. And so I am going to go through and give it, for the most part, it really only needed one coat. There might have been a few places where I just needed to go back and touch up where I wasn't very thorough when I painted, but overall one coat did the trick. And you know, working on this piece with that paint was just pure pleasure. So while I was waiting for the paint to dry on the larger table, I painted this one after the glue had dried, and I love how this paint is just covering over this salmon color, and for the most part I only gave it one coat. There were a few places where I might have missed when I initially painted and I had to go back over and touch those up, but yeah, it was pretty easy to paint this piece, and I was very happy with the results when it was done. After the paint dried on the legs, I went over the top, and I just wanted to make sure that I got the edges in the color Algonquin because I am going to add a decoupage paper. And so you can see that I am painting the inset of the table in white, because when you use decoupage paper, if you use white, the colors on your decoupage paper will actually stand out. If you were to use a darker color, they would kind of fade into the paint beneath. So the white is always the best choice when you are using decoupage paper. So here is the paper that I am using. This paper is a Roycycled Treasures paper, and it came in my maker's box from Sonnet's Garden Blooms. And at first when I saw it, I thought it would be perfect for something for a man cave. And so I started with this, and I did use this same paper in another video a couple of videos ago, and I just love it so much. I don't have any of this paper left. I used it all, and I may just have to go back and order some more, but it's a great paper. And one of the things that I did not realize about this paper is, and you'll see this when I remove my hand, it actually looks three-dimensional. So when you start to put down the paper, it almost looks like the hands of the clock are standing out. And maybe it's me, but do you guys see that? I absolutely love that. And so that's why I used every single bit, because I thought it was just such a great paper. So I'm putting down my starter strip of decoupage medium, and then I am going to continue going a few sections at a time, not too much, because I don't want any wrinkles, or I want to avoid wrinkles as much as I possibly can. And then once I have it down, I actually went back and took my heat gun and I dried it, and then I came back and went over the decoupage paper with another coat of the decoupage medium. Once my decoupage medium dried, I came back with my paintbrush and I just tried to blend in the edges of the paper a little bit more with the top of the furniture. And so what I'm doing is tapping the paint, and I'm trying to just bring a little bit of the paint onto the decoupage paper so that it doesn't look like there's so much of a difference between the paper and the painted table. So once I finished this table, I went on and did exactly the same thing on the larger one, and here are the finished pair. I did put them in my booth and I sold them separately. The smaller one sold and the larger one is still available, and I just love how this set of tables turned out. What do you think? Leave a comment below, let me know. For project 2, I picked up this very small Lazy Susan at a flea market, and I kind of thought this might be a piece that someone would use, for example, if they have a vanity that has a lot of nail polish, or you could just put your makeup on here and just kind of spin it around as you need your product. So I'm first going to give this a coat of white paint because I am going to, you guessed it, I am going to decoupage. So once I got that painted, then I took my heat gun and I dried the paint, and then I went on to the decoupage process. So if you've been following my channel for any length of time, you will know that very often I find napkins in my supermarket and I use them for decoupage. And this is one of those napkins that I found, and I thought it was universal enough that it could be used in any color bedroom. And it's got the greens and the blues and the golds. It's just a real pretty piece of paper. And so I grabbed that and I figured I would use this to decoupage this piece. Now I'm taking my decoupage medium and I'm going to begin with what I call a starter strip, and I am going over the edge and the top, and I'm just going to tap that napkin into place. Because napkins are so thin, you just have to be really careful about not tearing the napkin. So you just have to use care when you are tapping it down. Don't slide your hand across it, because if you do, the napkin will rip, which wouldn't be the end of the world, but it just makes extra work for you. Once the decoupage medium was dry, then I went around the edge with a piece of sandpaper, and in a downward motion I am sanding off the remainder of the napkin that I do not need. And if you do this, it comes off pretty easily. It just takes a few swipes and it will come off for you. The nice thing is that it leaves a really clean edge once you're done, and you know, it looks so much neater that way. That's why I choose this method to get the decoupage paper off. And here is the finished project. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Okay, so here's the desk that I worked on a couple of videos ago. Had a lot of problems with getting the arms on either side of the desk that hold up the drop front to work. And you could see that it was scratching the paint. I was just having all kinds of issues with it. And so I took a break to try to figure out how I was going to resolve the issues. In the meantime, I decided that I was going to put a transfer on the front, and so this is the transfer that I am using. It's an IOD transfer, new out in spring. And at first I was looking at these large roses, and although I liked them, I felt that the scale was off. I felt that they were too big for the project, and I tried to figure out, you know, how I was going to work them out, how I was going to make them fit. And then in the end, I just decided, you know what, I think that less is more. And so I ended up taking them off and just using the smaller flowers for the front. So once the transfer is down, I'm going to go back over it with the piece of vellum, and that is called burnishing your transfer. You just want to make sure that all of the edges are down and that there's nothing that got missed when you placed it onto the piece. And then I felt that it was nice, but it needed a little bit more. And so I went back into the transfer set and I pulled out another set of roses that are a little bit different in the type of rose that they are, but the color matches. And so that was what was important to me. So I put the transfer in place, and same thing, I went over it with the transfer tool, and then once the transfer was down, I went back over with some of the vellum, and then I actually used my finger just to make sure that everything was pressed down onto the piece of furniture. The nice thing about IOD transfers is that you can layer them. And so I felt that there was just too much vertical. Your eye was going vertically too much, and I wanted to have something that kind of stuck out a little bit on each side. And so I cut these rosebuds from another transfer in the pack, and I am also going to add those as well, just to give it a little bit more visual interest. And like I said, with these IOD transfers, you can layer them, you can mix and match them, and it just gives your piece so much versatility. I absolutely love roses, and I can't draw to save my life. So this is actually a really nice way of being able to add some artwork to a piece that you really do love without having to pay somebody to do it. Now I wanted to show you the detail in these transfers. If you look at this, you can see every vein in this leaf. You can see the thorns and the little hairs on the stems. Just the detail in the flowers themselves. They do an absolutely beautiful job. The IOD sisters really know what they're doing here. So my fix was to add chain, and that's what I did. And here is the finished project. I added a transfer to the front of the drawer as well as some wording. And then when you open the drawer, there also is some drawer liner paper that I picked up at a thrift store, and I thought it matched very nicely. And it will keep the drawer clean. And here is the inside. And I thought it turned out great. So what did you think of this video? The nesting tables that I worked on, I sold the one already, the small one, and I have the larger one still in my booth, and that is available. And I love that decoupage paper. It turned out really nice. It would be great for a bachelor's apartment or a man cave. It's just really a nice piece. And finally, I got that desk done. I will tell you that I've never been challenged quite as much as I was with this pink desk, but I think it turned out beautiful, and I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, I'm going to ask you to please give it a thumbs up, hit that notification bell so that every time I release another video, you'll be notified. And most importantly, if you haven't done so, please subscribe to my channel. My analytics show that there's about 79% of you that are not subscribed to my channel. So it really helps my channel grow when you do subscribe. And it doesn't cost you anything. No charge to subscribe to the channel. Anyway, I want to thank you again for joining me today. I hope that you guys have an awesome week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.